this is the best view ever of Whitehall, looking out across all the tractor drivers of England who've come together to make their point.
Hello, so as you can see, I'm here in Westminster as the protest begins.
Yes, I'm very much in the thick of it.
Look, we're challenging narratives here at GBNews, and that's what sets us apart.
Good morning, it's 9:30 on Thursday, the 1st of January. Happy New Year, live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Cameron Walker and Miriam Cates.
Well, some tragic breaking news this morning. At least 10 people have been killed and 100 injured after an explosion at a ski resort in Switzerland, popular with British tourists. Police are giving an update right now and we'll have the latest.
But even more people will feel, once again, a sense of hope. A belief that things can and will get better.
The Prime Minister promises positive change is on the horizon after a turbulent 2025.
But the Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch, also released a positive message for the year ahead.
Britain is not destined for decline. We are a great country full of talent, humour and strength. Things can change, but only if we have a plan for change.
Overnight, London rings in the new year in style as cities around the globe lit up the night sky with spectacular fireworks to welcome 2026.
We will smash the gangs.
I will do whatever it takes to secure our borders.
In August, I signed the new treaty with France, allowing us for the first time to directly return those who arrive on small boats.
We've got an exclusive interview with the Immigration Minister. Is there any chance of Labour getting a grip on the migration crisis in 2026?
And we'll be getting the reaction to news that household bills are set to rise today as the new energy price cap takes effect.
And a record-breaking number of Brits are expected to take part in Dry January this year. Are you one of the 17 million?
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Cameron Walker and Miriam Cates.
A very good morning to you, and let's just recap now on that breaking news coming out of Switzerland this morning. In the Crans-Montana area, there was a bar explosion. Police have confirmed overnight around 1:30 a.m. Local time. Swiss authorities say around 100 people have been injured. Tens of people are presumed dead as press conference is being held right now by police over there in Switzerland. These are the latest lines. The police say this is being considered a fire and not a terrorist attack. So police confirming this is being considered an explosion and a fire, not a terrorist attack. Swiss authorities say some of the victims are from other countries. Of course, this area is popular with British tourists. There's no confirmation that British tourists are part of the are a number of the victims, but police have confirmed that victims are presumed to be from other countries. 10 helicopters and 40 ambulances have been mobilised.
And we understand that the fire began at around midnight UK time, of course, just after the Swiss will have celebrated New Year. I mean, an absolute tragedy, Cameron. We understand that it was an explosion inside, so obviously, you know, completely destructive for those there, and we don't know the full casualty list yet. But I mean, the response to this does sound incredibly rapid. There are lots of eyewitness testimonies of multiple ambulances arriving very, very quickly as a no-fly zone over the area. But, you know, what a tragedy for people there celebrating on holiday, bringing in the new year.
Absolutely. It's meant to be a fresh start, and unfortunately 2026 has started in tragedy for the people caught up in this incident. There's been footage on social media of the bar very much ablaze and on fire. It's been reported that the explosion took place in the basement, which is a big open-plan bar in this particular area. More details coming out of this police press conference that you're seeing on your screen. Swiss authorities say the Valais Hospital intensive care unit is now full and patients are having to be transferred elsewhere. The police are saying that the majority of the around 100 injured are seriously injured. So this is presumably quite a major incident. The police press conference, as you can see on your screens, still going on. So lines are coming into us every single moment.
And of course, an explosion in a contained space, unbelievably destructive. We understand it wasn't terrorism, it was not a bomb, but it would have had the same impact as a bomb in that contained space underground. I mean, the only thing you can say is the Swiss are very well prepared for this kind of event. Their emergency services, their infrastructure is world class, and I'm sure they'll be doing their absolute best to treat all the injured. But a hugely worrying time for people with relatives in that region. Absolutely, and just so we know, it's the bar called La Constellation in Crans-Montana area of Switzerland, and can now be joined by the journalist James Jackson. James, well, I want to say good morning. Of course, it's a particularly tragic morning for what has happened overnight. James, what more can you tell us?
So we've just heard from the Swiss president, which is a post which changes regularly, that they're going to delay the traditional New Year's speech. That's how serious this event is affecting the Alpine nation. So what we've heard is that an explosion took place in the basement. Police say they don't know what the cause is. They're still investigating. They don't think it was terrorism. Probably related to pyrotechnics, and there have been reports of at least 10 dead. Now, actually, some Swiss media have reported up to 40 dead, but we don't have any confirmation. And there's also been reports that local hospitals have been overwhelmed by people who have been burnt, who have been injured. So this is really something very shocking happening when people are trying to have fun and ring in the new year. There are reports it took place at the same time as a concert. So there were about 100 people inside the bar at the time. It has a capacity for 300 in a ski town at 1:30 a.m. local time. That'll be 12:30 in UK time.
And we understand that this bar, La Constellation, is in a very remote region. Will that affect the emergency services response?
It may make it harder to get to hospital, but as you mentioned yourself, Switzerland is a country that's very well prepared for these kind of things. They have a lot of drills. Now, there's already been helicopters delayed and deployed. We've seen Airbus helicopters deployed, and people have made it to hospital. Lots of people have gone to hospital, actually, with reports coming in that the hospitals have been overwhelmed. So I think Switzerland is dealing as well as they possibly can, according to all the preliminary reports we've seen of this horrific accident, this tragedy that's happened while people were trying to enjoy their New Year's party.
And James, as you say, the hospitals are overwhelmed. The Valais Hospital intensive care unit is now full. Police have confirmed that some of the victims are from other countries. And of course, this ski resort is very popular with Brits.
Absolutely. If you look at the map, it's very close to the French border. This is an area where Brits and holidaymakers from around the world come in. So it's absolutely credible that there would have been Brits injured in this. We really don't know very much so far. Of course, the police's website has actually gone down from the local canton because so many people are trying to access information. There's currently a press conference going on right now, so we might be able to get more information shortly.
James Jackson, thank you very much for updating us on that, and of course we will bring you updates to Britain's Newsroom throughout the morning.
The time is 9:38 and household bills are set to rise today as the energy price cap takes effect.
Well, Ofgem, the energy regulator, say that the average household will now pay £1,758 a year for gas and electricity, just £3 more than last year.
It comes ahead of April's removal of green energy taxes, which will slash bills by around £154.
Well, the former chief executive of Energy UK, Angela Knight, joins us now. Angela, good morning and Happy New Year.
Good morning. Happy New Year to you as well.
Thank you so much for joining us. Now, of course, it's not good news that the energy price cap is going up, but nevertheless, £3 is a tiny amount and very much below inflation. Do you think consumers will welcome this change?
Well, I'm sure they will. And also that the predictions are that the cap will come down during the course of the year, not just because the £140 is coming off, although that's going on to general taxation, so we'll just be paying it out of another pocket. But also because, the great big peaks in gas that we had at the start of the conflict between Ukraine and Russia, and then, the whole of the world's supply got itself dislocated, that has now settled down as well. So we're looking at a far more predictable future. But what will happen is that the costs of redoing the grid, the national grid, and all that big infrastructure requirement there, that's got to be paid for. And a lot of that's going to be paid for by industry, which they clearly are very unhappy about. And some will come on our bills as well. So whilst the big turbulence caused by international gas prices has now more or less gone away, there is still an awful lot of money that needs to be invested. And so we're looking at long-term, very significant bills.
And how long does that investment take to trickle down to household bills, do you think?
Probably pretty quickly, actually. The programme of expenditure on the grid is what, 5, 6, 7 years duration. So we'll be having that come on the bills. And then, of course, what we haven't done in this country is we haven't built the backup required for the wind, as wind just only blows part of the time. And therefore, we've got backup to build, and we haven't really started that yet. Yes, there's the huge, great new power station, which will come on stream fairly soon down in the West Country. But the new nuclear, in the sense of the small-scale nuclear reactors, which are actually the quickest and probably the most reliable backup that we can build, although that programme keeps being announced, it hasn't yet started. And so we'll be importing, and we're importing significantly already, and especially in cold weather. And therefore we'll be exposed to what we're being charged by those that we are buying our electricity from. So there's an uncertainty in that respect. In many respects, we've decided to go over to renewables, and that's not necessarily wrong. What it is that the whole programme and the timetable has been out of sync. It's a bit like, I suppose, a bit like High Speed 2, which is now 10 times, 20 times or something the price it was originally estimated, been over-engineered, got a huge amount of costs involved. Nobody's quite sure we actually need the capacity, and all ends up in a £100 million back tunnel. So there's an element of that here where we've got and built the wind without connecting it up and without sorting out the backup either.
Well, Angela, related to that, of course, we are trying to build Sizewell C, which is barely off the ground and not yet fully funded. And in some ways, that's becoming a project very similar to HS2, a white elephant, if you like, that's already massively over budget. Not all the engineering problems have been solved yet. If it is ever built, it will be the most expensive nuclear power in the world, and the taxpayer is on the hook for it while it is being built because the government has not been able to secure any private funding.
That's correct.
Do you worry that some of the money, a large amount of the money that we pay in our bills, is actually being wasted?
I don't think it's been spent wisely. I appreciate that sort of slight modification of waste. But do I think that this is a programme that has not been thought out properly and therefore is much more expensive than it needs to be? The answer to that question is yes. And the result at the moment, as we are seeing, is that certainly as far as industry is concerned, and I always go to industry because that's so important, because that's who creates the jobs for this country and the wealth of this country. Industry is paying one of the highest electricity prices of the developed world. And there isn't a need to have done that. And it's a lot because we've had policy people who are no doubt highly educated, but what they're not is engineers. And they've gone off to a certain extent for emotional targets. We'll have net zero by year X, year Y, foreshortenage, show leadership, all that sort of thing. But it's unrealistic. And if you do targets which are unrealistic, then your costs rise and rise and rise. And as I say, how many people do think that it's sensible to build new sources of electricity without the means to connect it into the grid to distribute it? And how many people think it's sensible to build wind, which only blows for a certain amount of time, and solar when the sun shines for even less, without building the backup when the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine? And so it's that lack of coherence which is costing us with our energy programme a lot more money, to you, to me, to industry. It's threatening industry competitiveness, and we're already seeing a deindustrialisation take place, as we've seen in parts of the chemical industry. It's a very dangerous programme, and it can be thought through, even at this late date, into a more strategic and steady development and rebuild and investment than is taking place at the moment.
And Angela, how much is the rise in costs of household bills linked to the Warm Home Discount Scheme expanding eligibility to 2.7 million low-income households?
Well, I'm sorry, I haven't got the figure in front of me, but it's something like about £15–20. It's of that order of magnitude. And the renewable obligation, as it's called, which is the obligation for energy companies to buy renewables, and the obligation, the company obligation to insulate people's homes, that's the piece that's come off the bill. So that's a big bit. That's the bigger bit than it is the Warm Homes discount. But it's a good question to ask, because when it was announced and there was this great hooray went up, it's going to be expanded, many more people are going to get assistance with their bills, it was not thought that it was just shifting the cost from one part of the population that's buying energy to another part of the population that's buying energy. And even now, when they're shifting £140 off the bill, they're putting it on general taxation. So this is not anything more than moving a high-cost project around to different parts of the tax-paying public. It's not somehow it's going away. And that's why I say that it is absolutely essential to really even take a deep breath, even at this late stage, admit that, yes, it hasn't been planned in the way it should have been planned, and plan the next stage better. Better in terms of sequencing, better in terms of sensible, which comes first, the horse or the cart, and sensible in terms of how much it in reality is going to cost and for what beneficial end.
Angela Knight, thank you so much for joining us this morning. That's Angela Knight, former Chief Executive of Ofgem. Cameron, I do worry about this energy price cap because, of course, the stated aim of it is to keep bills down. But I think if you look at the evidence, all government price fixing ever does is stop the real price being able to come out. And actually, energy companies will just charge up to the price cap.
Yeah, they will.
And when there is a drop in price, a wholesale price, there's no incentive for them to reduce the price because they just can keep it at the price cap. So I think the price cap has actually been a bad idea and has kept our bills higher than most other countries in similar positions.
And at the end of the day, people want as low a bill as possible. And the reliance on energy from abroad and the fact it takes so long to build something like Sizewell C at a stupid cost, I think it's £38 billion is the figure that I've got quoted here, and it's not even going to be up and running until at least the late 2030s.
I visited there and I reported from there earlier this year, and the constructors have destroyed the landscape already. Many parts of farms have been purchased, trees have been removed, and there's still no guarantee that it will be built, that it will work. The only version of this reactor that has been built so far is one in France. That was offline for well over 6 months because they couldn't work out the engineering solutions. It's a white elephant.
Yeah, and of course, you know, you want your homegrown energy, but only if it's going to bring down bills. And realistically, it's not going to happen in the next decade, is it?
They should re-target the money towards these small nuclear reactors, bring them online quicker. Well, don't go away, because still ahead, we will have the latest from Switzerland, where an explosion at a ski resort has killed at least 10 people and injured 100 others.
This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Plenty of heavy and thundery rain across parts of southern Europe as we go through into the weekend. There's Storm Francis, which is heading towards Spain and Portugal, bringing heavy and thundery rain here. Also some heavy rain across parts of Italy, Slovenia, Hungary, Croatia, and the risk of some significant hill snow building up in parts as well. Into the weekend, well, there will be some dry weather around, but also further rain at times too. I'll see you later.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, here at Holbrook Animal Rescue, they're being forced to relocate, and if they can't find a suitable alternative, they'll even be at risk of closing. And I've seen the amazing work that they've done here. Just earlier we met a dog called Essie, who has just found her almost possible forever home literally in the time that we were here. She only came here a couple of days ago, so it's really great work that they do for all animals. Like this one here, this is Torn, he's just a puppy, and I'm also joined by Laura Santini, who runs the shelter. Tell us a bit about Torn here.
So this is just a little fellow that came in, no fault of his own. The people just couldn't cope with him. So he's lively, and he's a half shepherd, half Labrador.
What kind of impact would the possible relocation or even closure have on dogs like this one and all the other animals you have here?
Well, simply that we wouldn't be able to take them. So if the next one comes up like this and we've got nowhere to go, then we just can't take them, obviously. So what happens to them at that point, I don't know, because we don't just take beautiful pups like this. We take the old and the sick and the dogs that other people don't necessarily want to take. So I can't imagine what would happen to some of them. So I don't know. It's sad. It's just a sad situation.
And you've had quite a lot of support from the community here in trying to relocate. What's been there for you in terms of support?
They're absolutely incredible. They've sent 1,000 letters into the council to try and support us and help us and let everyone see the light that, you know, you do actually need animal sanctuaries around. You can't shut them all down. We're always getting phone calls saying how much people like what we do and hope we get our plan in appeal when it goes through and things like that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 8 minutes to 10. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
And let's just recap on that breaking news out of Switzerland, that there has been an explosion in a bar overnight. 40 people have believed to have been killed. At least 40 people are feared to have been killed and 100 injured after an explosion tore through a crowded bar during the New Year's Eve party. It's happened in the upscale ski resort of Kranz, Swiss, and that's what police have just confirmed in the last few minutes.
Well, we do understand that the fire began around midnight UK time, so that'll be 1:30 in the morning Swiss time, at a bar called Le Constellation, which is in the Kranz Montana, in the Valais region. And we understand it was not terrorism. There's no malicious motive suspected, but nevertheless, an explosion in a contained space underground is unfortunately bound to be extraordinarily destructive.
Police have said that many people are being treated for burns. Most of those who have been injured, bearing in mind there's over 100, were in a serious condition. The local hospital's intensive care unit, that's the Valais Hospital, their intensive care unit is now full and patients are having to be transferred elsewhere to other hospitals. A number of helicopters and ambulances are on the scenes in the Kranz Montana area.
Of course, it is obviously in a mountainous region, relatively remote, but we do understand the Swiss are extremely well prepared for these types of incidents with very well developed infrastructure. Not all that far from Mont Blanc, of course, the highest mountain in Europe. So a very, very popular region with skiers, and just an unbelievable tragedy, Cameron. People celebrating the New Year on holiday, enjoying themselves in a very safe country, Switzerland. Yeah. and for this to happen. Of course, we don't know the full circumstances yet and how quickly it happened, but we will be bringing you all the latest.
And it is meant to be a fresh start, of course, start of 2026, and unfortunately it started in tragedy. Police have also said that many of the victims are from other countries. Of course, the area is incredibly popular with British skiers, British tourists. There's no indication or confirmation at this stage that British people are involved in this incident. As soon as we do have more details on that, we will, of course, bring it straight to you. But just to recap, police believe around 40 people have died in that Swiss bar explosion. And I believe we can now go to Peter Blexley, who is live for us. Peter, good morning to you. Unbelievably tragic incident that has happened, former Met Police Detective Peter Blexley. But, of course, what's kind of the response? What would be happening on the ground now? Because, of course, it's quite a remote area.
Yes, well, I've just been watching the press conference live from Switzerland, and present there was a police commander, somebody from the fire service, the leading magistrate who was going to head up the investigation, which is how the Swiss legal system works out there, and somebody very senior in the medical profession. And they described it as several dozen being deceased as a result of this, which is clearly catastrophic and horrendous to happen at the turn of the new year. They went on to tell us that over 40 ambulances attended and that the hospitals are at maximum capacity. What they're endeavouring to do, the local hospital, is stabilise the condition of some people with very serious burns before transferring them to other hospitals somewhat further away because they're at absolute maximum capacity. Very interestingly, they said there was no detonation, no explosion as such of what you might expect in a terrorist attack, but also, and it's based upon that they're saying this doesn't appear to be a terrorist attack. OK, I'll accept what they say. I'm many miles away from the scene. They are not. But of course, what it is far too early to decide yet is whether there was any accelerant used in the fire. In other words, was any liquid or propellant used to make this fire worse than it would be in normal circumstances? And it's way too early in this situation to be able to tell whether that is the case or not. But I suspect we'll hear a lot more in the upcoming hours, days and weeks.
Peter, of course, with it being New Year, there could have been fireworks involved, for example, fireworks stored in the basement that could have contributed to the speed of the fire.
Yes, that's a possibility. And of course, the fire service will be very keen to establish where the fire started and what caused it, because it's only when you get that vital evidence that you can really say whether there is any element of crime involved or not. So I'm sure once all the casualties have been dealt with, once bodies have been removed, the focus will shift inevitably. How did this start and what caused it?
And Peter, the police are considering it a fire and not an attack. That's what they've just said in the press conference in the last kind of hour or so. We believe it's taken place in the basement of this very crowded bar. Around 100 people, of course, have been quite seriously injured. Because it's such a contained area, there clearly perhaps was a bit of a lack of an exit strategy in terms of the evacuation of the premises. Do you think that kind of confined space is contributing to the number of fatalities and the number of injuries we're seeing?
We will have to see. In the UK, for example, if you want to open up a nightclub that has a basement, you're not going to get a licence unless you have sufficient fire exits where people can escape in the event of a disaster like this. I'm sure the Swiss will have had very strict licensing laws, but we'll have to see in the fullness of time. This undoubtedly will end up in the equivalent of a public inquiry out in Switzerland because of the seriousness of it, the tragic, dreadful loss of life, and all these questions that you're asking, that I'm posing in my head, and that so many people are going to want answered fully, properly, in the fullness of time.
Of course, Peter, if it was an explosion, not just an ordinary fire, that does make it more difficult for anybody to escape. And we understand from the Swiss authorities that the majority of the 100 people injured are seriously injured. So sadly, we probably can expect the fatality count to rise.
Yes, tragically, and horrific burns by all accounts. And the hospitals doing everything they can to stabilise people, to get them to other specialist hospitals, which may be many, many miles away. So this is a matter where the full machinery of the Swiss state is going to swing into action to not only try and preserve life, try and look after those people so horrifically injured, but to conduct a very thorough inquiry into all aspects of this absolute catastrophic tragedy, because people are going to want answers. Loved ones, relatives will rightfully and understandably want to know how on earth in 2025, moving into 2026, can something like this happen in a progressive, kind of modernised country like Switzerland.
Absolutely. And just to recap for our GB News viewers and listeners, Swiss police believe around 40 people have died and 100 have been injured in a fire during a New Year's Eve party in the resort town of Crans-Montana in Switzerland. They say the blaze was not thought to have been caused by arson, but they couldn't immediately, as you've been saying, Peter, identify the victims because they say of the severity of the burns. When it is such a serious incident like this, there must be some kind of process that police follow to make sure, you know, every box is ticked in terms of the investigation.
Yes, and it's a very unsavoury and unfortunate thing for me to have to say, but in the case of a very serious fire, there are challenges in identifying victims. So disaster victim identification specialists will have to be brought in. And sometimes that can only be done by sourcing DNA from relatives and the such like. So this is a very complex inquiry on a huge, huge scale because of such tragic loss of life. So this story is going to run for some considerable time. And of course, my thoughts, as I'm sure so many people are with those who are worrying about their friends and their relatives. The Swiss have put out a telephone number there for anybody, not only if they've got concerns about a relative, but also if they witnessed anything, if they know anything. They are encouraging people to come forward and tell the authorities what they know, because clearly answers have to be found.
And we can let viewers know that hotline number now, which if you are concerned about friends and family in the area, you can call this number, which is +41. That's the code for Switzerland. So +41 848 112 117. And Peter, is this normal in these kind of situations for a helpline to be set up? What kind of people will be manning that helpline? What kind of information will they have?
Yeah. These kind of helplines are ready and available to swing into action for any kind of disaster, any large-scale disaster, be that, for example, an air crash, a disaster at sea, or a tragedy like we're seeing unfolding here today. So they will have sufficient numbers of people, I'm sure, to answer the phones, to log the information, to pass it on to the relevant people who need to hear it, and, of course, if need be, to comfort people who may have concerns about friends, relatives, loved ones that they've not been able to contact today.
Peter Blexley, thank you very much for joining us. And we can now be joined by the former Scotland Yard Detective Inspector Hamish Brown. Hamish, good morning to you. The area, understandably, has been sealed off and a no-fly zone has been imposed over the town of Crans-Montana. Why is there such restrictions on an event such as this?
I think it's a public reassurance, you know. I mean, the police will keep an open mind when investigating this awful tragedy, and it's all pointing to it was an error or something rather like that, as opposed to terrorism. But it's something where the public a rumour will get out that it's something else, so that this is a sort of proper way forward, really, just in case. The other thing is Here I am doing some media work, but the media, bless them, if they are taking aerial pictures, some outlets, not this channel, go ahead and show distressing photographs and things like that. So I think it's a sensible move.
Well, we do understand that the Swiss Public Prosecutor's Office is investigating the incident as arson, and that pyrotechnics could have been involved. So there certainly is a possibility, as you said, of there being a crime. But I imagine the first concern of the emergency services will be for the victims and their families. What kind of infrastructure locally will be set up near the scene to support those who are perhaps caught up near the tragedy but not injured in it?
Well, that's a very good question, really. There'll be different phases to this investigation. The obvious one is what happened, but then you're going to look at victims, identification of victims, informing relatives, a dreadful job, actually. And given the heat of the fire, some of the bodies just might not be easily identifiable. They'll be looking at personal belongings on them. They're unlikely to have passports or anything like that, but they might have some identification. So it's that sort of thing. So it initially rests with the Swiss police, but it will go much further than that. There's going to be Interpol, there's going to be Europol. And it's times like this, that the whole world pulls together, and the British police, I'm absolutely certain, will give the Swiss police every cooperation. And my experience, having dealt with different forces from around the world, is absolute cooperation. And it's just one of those. Just one of those tragedies, really, and it's an utterly dreadful job. One of the things they might have to do, and it sounds dreadful, and I hope this is not going to upset anyone at home, is fingerprinting the deceased, because if you find those fingerprints in someone's house, for example, we have a good idea who they are. That will be seen as identification. So there are a number of aspects to it.
Sure.
The people who are best at that, incidentally, in this country, are the British Transport Police for some of the awful things they deal with.
Hamish, do stay with us. Just to recap for GB News viewers and listeners what is happening if you're just tuning in. Dozens of people are feared to have been killed and around 100 have been injured after an explosion tore through a crowded bar during a New Year's Eve party in the upscale ski resort of Crans Suisse. The Italian Foreign Ministry says the information from the Swiss police indicate that there have been 40 deaths, and this all took place at 1:30 a.m. local time, so just after, half past midnight UK time. The bar is called the Le Constellation Bar, and it's in southwestern Switzerland. Hamish, when it comes to an incident such as this, when the police first arrive on the scene, what's their priorities?
Oh, well, I think the safety of those people who are there has got to be of paramount importance. The next is going to be the investigation itself. Excuse me, I was in bed over New Year. The investigation of the incident itself, and they'll be looking for what evidence they can. But initially it's going to be looking after those people there, controlling the scene, making various notes, observations. So the first steps are absolutely essential. They may well be filming when they arrive, because the position of the fire, and we know, or I understand, there was an explosion after the firework went into the building, which would indicate it's not an explosion like as a bomb or something like that. It is something happening, causing a fire, and that in turn causes an explosion. So they'll be looking the seat of the fire, that is, where did it happen, where did it start. So there are a number of things they can do, and of course they're going to be onlookers, very, very concerned. You might have family members there. So it's those sort of things and the reassurance. So I think the police will have a lot on their plate, but it will be quite organised as the time goes on. Identification of victims, of course, but the investigation of this is of paramount importance, and someone will have to put this together because there'll be worldwide interest, and the Swiss police will be under review, of course.
Hamish, what can you tell us about the importance of reporting after incidences like this? You've mentioned about the no-fly zone and the importance of media outlets not releasing distressing images. But what will the police, what will the authorities be hoping the media does and doesn't report?
Oh, I think the media play an essential part in this, and my previous experience investigating the most serious crimes, we have looked to the media, we have looked to the public for their kind cooperation, and the media play a substantial role here. And I'm sure if public will come to them, they will report it, and in the right circumstances inform the authorities. So what I would say, I don't know if this will be heard abroad, but certainly anyone who witnesses an incident or is there and they think they've got something of some use, please come forward to the police. Don't take your own videos and things like that, which is pretty ghoulish, but your own observations if you have something relevant to report. So I think the media certainly have a big part to play, and they, most importantly, they can reassure the public in certain ways. And here is that there is an investigation, people have been found, and there will be a lot of people who didn't die mercifully. So I think that's got to be said as well. But the heart-rending thing of having to send out messages around the world, what is known in the police is called a death message, and I can tell you, having been there, it is the worst job you can do.
Hamish Brown, former Scotland Yard Detective Inspector, thank you so much for joining us. Well, we're now joined by a Swiss journalist, Melissa Muller, who joins us from Zurich. Melissa, good morning. What a tragic start to the new year. How are Swiss people reacting to this awful story?
I'm sure Swiss people are in shock. I myself woke up not expecting that. Switzerland is usually considered a safe country. It's not known for having big fire incidents like that. It's not really happened a lot in the past, so there's a lot of shock. But also, I think, trust in the Swiss authorities, because they deal with tragedies usually quite well and quite thoroughly.
Melissa, what is the health and safety record like for areas such as this, these kind of high-class ski resorts? Because there's reports that the fire was in the basement of this quite upmarket bar. So what kind of health and safety record do they have?
Usually health and safety standards are quite high in Switzerland. There was a witness account in one of the Swiss media which said that there was only one exit, which is, of course, it could be a reason why there is such a high death and injury toll.
Now, Melissa, you said that trust in the authorities is high. I visited Switzerland last summer, and I have to say the infrastructure, the level of organisation is incredibly impressive. It has to be one of the best countries in the world for the role of the authorities. Do you think that the rapid response to this emergency, with the dozens of ambulances attending, was characteristic of that Swiss competence?
Definitely, definitely. Whenever there's big fires or big natural catastrophes, usually we see authorities quickly ramming up whatever they have. There's a lot of helicopters. They're very skilled with that due to the infrastructure of the mountains, the natural geography. So usually, yes, I would say people have trust that there is good responses from the emergency systems.
Police have said that the Valais Hospital intensive care unit is now full and patients are having to be transferred elsewhere. Are hospitals in ski resorts designed to deal with this kind of incidents? Because presumably they're used to people breaking their leg on a ski slope, but not dealing with a major fire where hundreds of people are seriously injured, or 100 people are seriously injured.
I'm not too sure about the capacity of the specific ski location, but in general, yes, as you said, there's a lot of injuries usually. So they are definitely prepared for people coming in with injuries. And as I said, they have quite a good helicopter infrastructure. So if there's injuries, they could be quickly flown into different hospitals. But I'm not too sure how well prepared this specific hospital in that specific area would be for casualties from the fire, which is, of course, not something that happens usually.
Now, of course, 27 years ago now, in 1999, there was a horrific fire in the Mont Blanc tunnel between France and Italy, not all that far from where this tragedy has happened. A lot of lessons were learned from that incident. Of course, Swiss authorities were not involved with that. It was the French and the Italian. Do you think these kind of alpine situations have... there's been a lot of learning from those disasters by the emergency authorities in recent years?
I mean, again, just commenting on Switzerland, I'm not sure how it is in comparison to what was happening back then. But in general, I would say the Swiss authorities, they do react very quickly. They do react very well. They have a lot of helicopters. There was 150 emergency staff. There was 40 ambulances, more than 10 helicopters bringing people to hospitals. So I think Switzerland in general is a very well-prepared country. Of course, no one can see a tragedy like this happening, and it's not something that happens usually. So I think any place in the world would be overwhelmed with dozens of dead and 100 injuries.
Melissa, has there been any statements from politicians in Switzerland?
Yes, so the president of the Swiss Confederation, Guy Parmelin, postponed his New Year's speech because of to show solidarity with the victims. So yes, the politicians have been commenting on this, and of course it's a big tragedy. But what political consequences this might have, everything just happened very recently, so it's not sure what more will follow. Yeah.
And we do understand now from Stefan Ganzer, who is a member of the Valais local government, that it wasn't an explosion that started the fire, which was as initially reported, but that the fire quickly erupted, causing the whole building to go up in flames suddenly. I mean, I'm sure this will be a very fast-moving investigation, but do you think there is a possibility that this fire was started deliberately?
I definitely know that the authorities said there's absolutely no chance that it would be a terror attack. So whether it was still a deliberate fire, that's unclear. The investigation is still ongoing, so I wouldn't like to comment on that. But right now it seems more like an accident situation, which of course could change. We would have to rely on the public information for that.
Melissa, of course, it's a very popular area with tourists from a number of countries, and police have said that some of the victims are from other countries. How much of a coordination is there, do you think, that there's going to be between the Swiss authorities, Italian, French, and perhaps British as well?
Usually they cooperate quite well, so I think they should all be working together pretty well. And yeah, I know that there were some tourists that were also part of that were victims of the fire. It's not clear which nations they come from yet. It's not clear how many tourists, how many foreign nationals were affected. But I think there probably will be some court cases against the owners of the locality, especially. But yeah, we will see. Right now, there's no public information on that, so I would prefer to rely on public information.
Melissa Müller from Zurich, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Well, joining us now in the studio is Andy Williams and Piers Pottinger, political commentators. I want to say Happy New Year, but of course it's such a tragic incident that's taken place in Switzerland. Andy, your thoughts first of all?
Well, as you say, tragic. There's not really much more you can say. Thank goodness it's not some awful terrorist incident, or so it seems. It's just the last thing you would expect to happen on New Year's Eve. Very, very sad.
And Piers, sadly, a very high death count and possibly to increase, because we understand that the majority of those injured are seriously injured.
Yes, it sounds dreadful, and obviously one's thoughts go to all the victims and their relatives and friends. But it's a small place, Crans-Montana, very beautiful. It's most famous because not so much for the skiing, which is obviously there, but it's the golf course, and it's on the European tour. It's one of the most popular events on the European tour because it has such spectacular scenery. And the golf course, the last hole goes right into the center of the town, and a lot of people have some of the apartments around. Typically in European golf courses of this stature, there are a lot of expensive apartments around there which are bought by members of the club, and many of them overseas, and many who will be there for skiing as well. Of course, that's why it's very popular as a fairly expensive place to go, as everywhere in Switzerland is. Mind you, everywhere in Britain's pretty expensive at the moment.
Yeah.
But no, it's a tragedy, and all one can hope is that the hospitals are looking after the victim, the injured, as well as they possibly can. And I'm sure the Swiss, being super efficient, will be doing everything they can, as best they can, in this terrible situation.
Well, yes, and you say that, Piers. The Valais Hospital, which is the nearest one to where the incident took place, their intensive care unit is now full, and patients are being transferred elsewhere. Of course, Andy, when you hear that there's been an explosion in a Swiss ski resort, a lot of people's minds immediately jump to terrorism. Of course, police have ruled that out absolutely with no hesitation. But it does lead to all this speculation, doesn't it? Everyone wants to know what has caused this fire and what caused it to accelerate so much.
It does, and I'm afraid, I was saying to Piers off air, I do think there are some people who almost want that to be the case because they want an easy explanation. And they want there to be that sort of narrative, and I'm very, very glad that is not the cause, but that will be obviously no consolation to the victims' families or anyone involved. I mean, it's just a truly awful thing to have happened. And as you say, sort of in the last place you would expect. I remember when there was an awful nightclub bombing in Bali, which I think was a terrorist attack. But again, you just don't think of these sorts of places as where where something like this might happen.
And Piers, we've been hearing from the Swiss journalist you've just spoken to, Melissa Muller, that trust in the authorities is very high in Switzerland, and of course they are very competent.
Yeah.
That is, of course, reassuring that probably the response was the best in the world that it could have been.
Well, I imagine, as I just said, I think they will, they are incredibly efficient, and I'm sure they'll be handling it as best they can. The trouble is, on New Year's Eve, when there's the parties in bars or nightclubs around the world, and these kind of incidents, I'm afraid, do happen, particularly when pyrotechnics are involved in bands playing. More and more they use these pyrotechnics, sometimes without the best understanding of health and safety, as we would call it here. But I think the problem is with an incident like this is that it's going to take some time for the full story to emerge, and really speculation now is rather redundant, because it's really now what one needs to do is wait and see, pray for all the victims, and then let's see what the causes were and what needs to be done, if anything, as a result of that.
It's interesting what you say about fireworks, Piers, because a friend of mine was in Melbourne for New Year's Eve, and they went to a drive-in cinema. A firework sort of went off the wrong way, hit something, caused a huge fire. Luckily, no one was injured, but, it's not surprising that these incidents happen, unfortunately.
Just to recap, for those of you just tuning in, before we move on to other stories, in the past hour we've had update from Swiss authorities about the fire in the Crans-Montana area, the resort town in the Swiss Alps. Several dozen people are presumed dead. We think around 40, according to police. At least 100 injured. Several different nationalities are involved, and work to identify those victims are ongoing. Most of the injured have significant injuries with severe burns. 10 helicopters, 40 ambulances and 150 responders have been sent to the scene, and the emergency operation continues. The Valais Hospital's intensive care unit is full, and they are having to transfer patients to specialist burns centres in the country.
Well, we will, of course, bring you the latest on that story, but we've got the panel with us. Let's move on to a different story, a UK story. And the Telegraph is reporting that Zach Polanski, the Green Party leader, would form a coalition with Prime Minister Andy Burnham, should such an opportunity arise. Andy, what do you think?
What an opportunity that would be. I mean, firstly, I think I'm going to continue to pour cold water on anything to do with Andy Burnham until he gets into Parliament. That's the first thing we have to remember. It's a huge hurdle to overcome, and I know Boris Johnson did it. Boris Johnson was out of Parliament, he was Mayor of London, found a seat, came back in. But he has to find a seat and then win it. And I think it's assumed that someone will give him a seat and he'll win. But he has to fight that seat and then beat Reform, which may not be easy, and then win an election within the Labour Party. It's not as straightforward as it might seem.
Was it Clive Lewis who said publicly that he was going to give up his seat for Labour MP
I think that's
Andy Burnham, and then backtracked on it about 5 minutes later?
I mean, Miriam was obviously an elected MP. I think that's so offensive to the electorate that you'd say, here you go, walk in, have my seat. I mean, I think Clive Lewis is an MP in Norfolk. Andy Burnham has Andy Burnham has no connection with Norfolk whatsoever.
But also, of course, Zach Polanski isn't an MP.
Right, yes. Exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
So, yes, he's the leader of the Green Party, which is doing remarkably well under his leadership.
But they have 4 seats.
Which is extraordinary. They've got their membership has grown substantially. In polling, they're way ahead of the Lib Dems, which you think should be worrying the Lib Dems, but they seem blissfully unaware of their position. Having done well in the last general election, they failed to do anything with the result. In fact, they're going backwards. But yet they're happy for Ed Davey to continue to enjoy riding on funfares. But the idea, I mean, this is what is so bad for the country at the moment, is that the government is under such pressure from its own party, from all sides. You've got the left, the centre, the soft left, the extreme left, the splinter, the Your Party fiasco, which makes even Zach Polanski look ridiculous. Well, sorry, Zach Polanski makes
look sensible.
Sensible. God, they're all nuts. What can you do?
Well, did you see Zara Sultana's New Year message on Twitter?
No, I missed that one.
She said, "Happy New Year, abolish the monarchy."
Oh, good.
What a lovely sentiment for the turn of the year.
Speech this year, I'm perhaps coming around to this.
I mean,
I'm not commenting on this.
No, you're not allowed to comment on this.
Starmer's New Year's message, I think, was the most patronising, pathetic I've ever seen a leader give.
So
you can't believe that man is...
This is a really interesting juxtaposition between Starmer and Burnham, because, frankly, I'm not sure what either of their politics is. I don't know what they believe deep down. I don't think it's clear. I think they're basically both technocrats, actually, underneath it all. But the reason that Andy Burnham is the man of the moment and Keir Starmer isn't comes down to the fact that one of them is charismatic and a good communicator and the other isn't. Is that enough?
No. Andy Burnham only believes in Andy Burnham. I've always thought that. I thought that 15... He's very consistent about believing in himself and his absolute unabashed desire to become Prime Minister. I can't stand him. I'd never vote for him in a million years. I think there are other good options, actually, on the Labour front bench. I think Wes Streeting would be a good option, for example. I don't think Andy Burnham is, and I actually just don't think it's likely or feasible, actually, that he's going to...
But they all seem to be on manoeuvres. Don't forget Angela Rayner. You've got, as you say, Wes Streeting, who I accept is the best of a terrible bunch. Then you've got the lunatic Miliband, who is supposedly operating from Aberdeen with Great British Energy, which actually has still to find an office, even though it's now 18 months in existence.
They're working from home.
And from home, yeah, you can't make it up. And I mean, our energy costs are the highest in the world. One of the problems that this country is going to face this year is that despite oil being prices coming down as they will next year, because there's going to be a great glut of it, oil and gas will be cheaper, but our energy prices to industry are 5 times more than the US, for example. 5 times. It's the highest in Europe, these costs, which are insane. And if you look at INEOS's results, Jim Ratcliffe, one of the richest men in Britain, sorry, he's moved to Monaco, by the way, can't think why, and of course a majority owner of Manchester United, and INEOS has produced disastrous results because of the taxes on carbon, as well as all the other costs that the government have heaped on industry. And Starmer and Reeves seem to live in a different world, because everything they're doing is actually hurting the economy, and it's impossible for growth to happen under the tax and spend lunacy of Reeves and Starmer.
The only slight corrective I'd give to that, Piers, and I largely agree with you, but that energy bills are going to come down by £140 on average from April per person. So that is a good move, is it not?
No, but they're just shifting it to taxation. It's not actually a discount to you and I. We will be paying it one way or another. They're just shifting the goalposts. And I mean, it's indicative of how dangerous this situation is for our country when Andy, who's a Labour supporter normally, is admitting this government is a shambles.
Well, it's interesting how we're talking about charisma and perhaps the lack of that Sir Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves both have. But somebody who does have charisma alongside Andy Burnham is Zach Polansky. And the whole idea of this coalition is to keep out somebody else who's got charisma, Nigel Farage.
Well, he sort of has charisma. I mean, I find him actually a bit... I'm not sure quite what the word is. He sort of sets my teeth on edge a bit.
Creepy is the word, I think.
Yeah, that's
creepy.
That was the word I didn't want to say.
No,
but look, what is interesting is that Reform and the Greens are the two parties who are sucking up the most airtime and enthusiasm and energy in British politics, and they have what, 9, 10 MPs in total between them. I mean, it's remarkable.
It is remarkable.
And what they have in common is they're populists. They say they have easy solutions. They both say they can wave a magic wand. And in Zach Polansky's case, he says, well, you know, we can just borrow endless money and everything will be fine. And it's not really borrowing if it's from the Bank of England, which is just nuts. And then
he wants to abolish the police.
Yeah,
but I mean,
but Nigel Farage equally says he has very straightforward solutions. They're both populist and they're both dangerous.
I might have agreed with you a year ago. But I think Reform have been trying extremely hard to come up with worked solutions to some of these problems. Obviously, they've recruited Danny Kruger, who is now in charge of preparing for government. Out of all the political parties, they have made the most detailed statements about how they're going to fix some of these things. Now, of course, the jury's out whether they would work, whether they would have the political impetus to deliver them in office. But I don't think it is actually fair to say anymore that Reform are just populists. In fact, they are tackling some of the most unpopular issues, like, for example, whether or not the triple lock can be kept.
But the other thing is that in the Labour manifesto, they promised to reduce the voting age to 16. Now, they've gone very quiet on that. Nothing's happened because they've realised it would finish them if that happened. Because the 16-year-old and the young are attracted to the Greens and Reform because they see the mess that the Conservatives made for the last 14 years and the absolute shambles that this lot are making at the moment and fighting amongst themselves. I mean, when parties fight amongst themselves, people don't want to vote for them.
The one thing I'd say...
The Labour Party just doesn't get that message.
One thing I'd say, Miriam, is, you know, I would give Reform credit for, and I think this was actually a really significant, underrated moment of 2025, was when Nigel Farage gave a speech, and I was sitting here, and he junked Reform's, basically junked the manifesto, or at least junked their economic policy and said, that is no longer credible and we'll start again. And that was a very smart thing to do, because their previous economic policies were completely mad, and now they're saying we're going to actually have a serious think about it.
They're gaining credibility on the economic front by the day, and that is largely due to the arrival of Mr. Kruger, who has added a great deal of substance to the party. The problem Nigel still has, though, is that he hasn't got a shadow cabinet. Right. He hasn't got the numbers of serious people that will make, when it comes to the crunch in a general election, would you actually vote for them? That's
Agreed.
the problem.
And my prediction for this year is that by the end of this year, Richard Tice will not be where he is, because he is not credible in that role as a potential chancellor.
I think Zia Youssef also wants that job.
And he is credible.
I agree. My concern is that there's no lack of intention amongst some of these politicians. I mean, not all of them, of course, but some of them wanting to fix these problems. But we've been talking about the energy price cap this morning. And, you know, 30, 40 years ago, I think there would have been some serious debate about whether a price cap is a good idea at all. Same with the minimum wage. When government fixes prices, things go wrong. Surely this was the lesson of the 60s and 70s. And yet all parties have now got into this idea that the government should meddle. And it's not working.
And this government is handing out subsidies in a ridiculous manner. For example, they gave £1 billion of taxpayers' money to Jaguar Land Rover, when it's owned by one of the biggest companies in India. Its market capitalization's in the many billions, and they could easily have paid the billion themselves. Why is the British taxpayer bailed out a public company like that? They've given 120 million to Grangemouth in Ineos. That's just gone down the pan. They've lost 450 million this year.
Heathrow Airport is another really good example. Why are we going to spend billions of pounds? I think third runway is a brilliant idea. We should do it. We need to build more infrastructure. But Heathrow Airport has a ton of money, and it's a private sector organisation, and they can afford to pay for it.
But
they should take the risk.
planning to close the M25 in order to put this runway there. Which, I mean, think of the chaos of this. I mean, the government does these things without thinking them through. It's basic stuff, and they really get it wrong all the time.
They do. And if you go back 100 years or so, it was private companies that built, for example, the first tube lines, and they spent the money, they delivered it, they took the money from the ticket prices, they were fully incentivised to deliver on time, to budget, and make money out of it and make it good. And I think that's where it's gone wrong. Government's no good at delivering this stuff.
Andy Williams, Piers Pottinger, for now, thank you very much.
Well, coming up next, Swiss police believe around 40 people have died following an explosion in a bar, and 100 people at least are injured. We'll have the latest on that.
This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Good morning, Happy New Year. This is your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. It's a cold day today. We have northerly winds bringing Arctic air and also plenty of showers, particularly across parts of Scotland. These readily falling as snow. We're going to see some snow accumulations really building up as we go through the next few days. Also through today, a few spots of showery rain, maybe some sleet and snow across parts of Northern Ireland, Wales, and perhaps feeding into some central and maybe southern parts of England. Elsewhere, actually a lot of dry, sunny weather to be had, but temperatures a little bit below average for the time of year and feeling even colder where you're exposed to that brisk northerly wind that's pushing through into the evening. And we're going to continue with showers piling in across northern parts of Scotland. Snow building up. We're talking 20, 30 centimetres perhaps over the highest routes, and with some brisk winds still, we could see some blizzard-like conditions. Also a few showery bursts of mainly rain across parts of Northern Ireland, perhaps a wintry mix mix, pushing in across parts of Wales, some sleet, some snow over the higher ground, a few spots of rain across some parts of southwest England, but otherwise across much of England really it is going to be a fine end to the day. Clear skies though, allowing temperatures to plummet, so it is going to turn cold, frosty, a harsh frost in quite a few places, just where you've got that breeze coming in from the north and a bit more cloud, perhaps towards some western parts. Here temperatures not dropping quite as low, generally staying a few degrees above freezing, but further east, yes, it is going to be cold and frosty tomorrow morning. Watch out, as there is the potential for a front of sorts to bring some rain, sleet and snow across parts of Northern Ireland, Wales and maybe into southern southeastern parts of England as we go through tomorrow morning. That could cause some problems with some icy stretches here and there. Otherwise, actually a lot of fine weather for many, some decent sunshine, just still plenty more snow showers in areas exposed to that northerly wind. Temperatures, if anything, tomorrow are going to be a few degrees down on today, so feeling even colder.
Thank you for making us Britain's #1 news channel. Together, we have built something truly extraordinary.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the A96 at Huntley, traffic is restricted both ways after an incident. Expect delays and follow diversions. In Surrey, the M25 anti-clockwise between Junction 6 and Junction 5 has a collision with lane closures, improving around 10:55 this morning. In Devon, the A30 westbound between the A386 and the A388 at Launceston East has a crash with one lane closed, easing around 1:10 this afternoon. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast has engineering work between Milton Keynes Central and Cheltenham Spa. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. Let's just recap on the breaking news from this morning. Swiss police believe around 40 people have been killed following a bar explosion and 100 people have been injured. Many of those are thought to be seriously wounded with burns.
Well, we understand that the fire began around midnight UK time, so 1:30 in the morning in Switzerland, at a bar called Le Constellation in Crans-Montana region in Valais, which is very popular with tourists.
Now, Swiss authorities have said some of the victims are from other countries. It is not known if any Brits are among the casualties.
Well, the local intensive care unit at the hospital is full. Victims have already been transferred to other nearby hospitals.
During the press conference, the police said they believed a fire was responsible for the explosion rather than a terrorist attack.
An absolute tragedy, Cameron. What a story for Swiss people particularly to wake up to. Well, we're now joined by Mark Palmer, who's the travel editor at the Daily Mail. Mark, good morning. Thank you for joining us. For people who were on holiday in this area, people on holiday nearby or even in the bar, I mean, this is the worst disaster you could imagine at a time that was supposed to be a festive break.
Terrible start for the new year, and I feel dreadfully sorry for all those concerned. There would have been a whole lot of young people. I don't know that particular bar, but I understand that young people, after a wonderful day, it was a beautiful day yesterday in that part of the world, sunny blue skies. The snow is pretty good for quite early in the season. They would have been out working hard on their skis and then playing hard in the evening as you do. And there would have been a fantastic atmosphere last night on New Year's Eve and then coming into New Year's Day. So it's a real tragedy.
Mark, how popular is the area with British tourists in particular?
It's interesting because I was just reading a couple of weeks ago in the Telegraph about how Crans-Montana is somewhat sort of under the radar for British holidaymakers and British skiers. It's nothing like as well known, for example, as Zermatt, also in Switzerland, or Verbier for that matter. But actually, they were saying that it's becoming increasingly popular over the last few years. It has a glacier, it offers some great skiing, and of course, it's in Italy. It's in the French-speaking part of Italy. It's well known for its wonderful cuisine and beautiful landscapes, and so it's very much a resort was up and coming, you could say.
Now, Switzerland, of course, is a popular and very high-end tourist destination. It is a very expensive place to visit, but we understand from the UK embassy in the Swiss capital, Bern, that they have not yet been approached for assistance. Do you think it's possible that actually no British people were caught up in this tragedy?
To be honest, I would think it unlikely. One can just hope that that is the case. It is, as I said, it's becoming increasingly popular. And more and more young people, perhaps if they haven't got children, there's a time to get away before going back to work, that skiing at this time of year is increasingly popular.
Mark, of course, there's a number of bars in the area. We understand the fire started in a basement. Just how crowded are these kind of resorts when it comes to a New Year's Eve party?
The resorts like that, it's always that sort of après-ski atmosphere, isn't it? Where you come off the mountain, you know, at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. You're excited. You're particularly excited because it's New Year's Eve. People crowd into these bars. A lot of alcohol is consumed. There's always a good atmosphere. Normally people having a lot of fun. So it doesn't surprise me at all that it was super crowded. And because it was so crowded, clearly that is the reason why, sadly, we're hearing that there have been so many fatalities.
And in these situations, when people are caught up in these disasters, what's the right thing for tourists to do? Who should they contact? How do they make arrangements to perhaps travel away from the region when there is not a lockdown in place, but certainly additional exclusions on that zone?
I don't think there's an awful lot that people can do while you're there. I think that sadly, if there are British skiers out there going for a short break, I'm sure that they would be looking perhaps to come home early. I think you could say that the party is over in Crans-Montana for the next few weeks, which is very sad. Anybody who is preparing to go out there in the next few weeks should obviously be thinking very carefully. Do they want to go somewhere where the atmosphere will be funereal? It'll be a sorry resort for some time to come.
Mark, when there is a major incident such as this in an area where lots of nationalities are present, what kind of coordination is there between Swiss authorities and British authorities, French and all the rest of it?
Of course, it's that time of year, isn't it, when offices are closed down. I mean, normally one would approach the embassy. There'd be a lot of support perhaps coming from our government, liaising with governments there, local governments there. But I imagine that it's going to be very difficult to get the sort of information that you need because of the time of year that it is.
Mark Palmer, thank you so much for joining us this morning. That's Mark Palmer, the travel editor at the Daily Mail. And Cameron, the Telegraph is reporting that it's now understood it was a birthday candle in a champagne bottle that caused the fire. That's what witnesses are saying. That's what a French news channel is reporting. And of course, you know, it's New Year, candles, fireworks are, bound to be present. But we'll bring you all the latest.
French news channel BFM, they are quoting a lady called Emma, and this is the quote: "Some of the bottles were near the ceiling and it caught fire. The whole ceiling was in flames and the fire spread really fast. It happened in seconds. We ran outside screaming and crying." That's a lady called Emma speaking to French news channel BFM.
Well, there's plenty more to come here on Britain's Newsroom on GB News. We're going to take a break after the travel weather.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Plenty of heavy and thundery rain across parts of southern Europe as we go through into the weekend. There's Storm Francis, which is heading towards Spain and Portugal, bringing heavy and thundery rain here. Also some heavy rain across parts of Italy, Slovenia, Hungary, Croatia, and the risk of some significant hill snow building up in parts as well. Into the weekend, well, there will be some dry weather around, but also further rain at times too. I'll see you later.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get this on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Welcome back. Let's just recap on that breaking news this morning. Swiss police believe around 40 people have been killed following a bar explosion and 100 people are injured. Many of those are thought to be seriously wounded.
Well, the fire began at around midnight UK time, so 1:30 in the morning in Switzerland, in a bar called Le Constellation in Crans-Montana, which is in the Valais region of Switzerland, which is very popular with tourists.
Now, Swiss authorities have said some of the victims are from other countries, but it's not yet known if any Brits are involved.
And the UK Foreign Office has now commented on the incident. A spokesperson has said, "Our thoughts are with all those injured and killed in the terrible tragedy in Crans-Montana, and we pay tribute to the Swiss emergency services who are leading the response."
Well, earlier this morning, the head of Valais Canton Police in Switzerland addressed the press.
Here is what they had to say.
We've counted around 100 injured people, most of them seriously. And unfortunately, several dozen individuals are presumed dead. I can't hide it from you. We're shaken by what happened last night in Caen. On behalf of the command of the Valais Cantonal Police, I extend my deepest sympathy to the victims and the families affected by this tragedy. I assure them of our support during these particularly dramatic and painful moments.
Well, we're now joined by the political commentators Andy Williams and Piers Pottinger here in the studio. Let's start with you, Piers. Information is coming in this morning, but there will be some people still waking up. It's New Year's Day. People would have stayed up late last night, and what a tragedy for Swiss people to wake up to this morning.
Yes, it's awful because It really is a big tragedy, and in a relatively small country like Switzerland, and a very efficient and country, it's very unusual for something like this to happen anywhere, for that matter. And Crans-Montana is a very beautiful place, and actually most famous, I would suggest, for the golf tournament it has every year on the European Tour, which is broadcast worldwide. It's been on the tour for at least 20 years, maybe more. I can remember when Seve Ballesteros won it with a famous shot. It's really horrific incident, and one's thoughts and prayers are entirely with all the victims' families and people injured, and indeed all the people involved in the emergency services, for which this is quite something.
And Andy, just very briefly, of course, an incident like this creates all sorts of speculation, but they have ruled out terrorism, haven't they?
They have, and that's obviously if there's any sort of crumb of comfort we can take, I think it's that. But the sheer number of people, I mean, 40 is a really significant death toll. We're not talking about a handful of people, we're talking about a significant number, dozens and dozens. It's very sad.
And sadly, the number may go up, because we do understand that those injured are very seriously injured. Well, don't go away. There's plenty more to come on Britain's Newsroom. Stick with us. We'll be back very shortly after the break.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, Happy New Year. This is your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. It's a cold day today. We have northerly winds bringing Arctic air and also plenty of showers, particularly across parts of Scotland. These readily falling as snow. We're going to see some snow accumulations really building up as we go through the next few days. Also through today, a few spots of showery rain, maybe some sleet and snow across parts of Northern Ireland, Wales, and perhaps feeding into some central and maybe southern parts of England. Elsewhere, actually, a lot of dry, sunny weather to be had, but temperatures a little bit below average for the time of year and feeling even colder where you're exposed to that brisk northerly wind that's pushing through into the evening. And we're going to continue with showers piling in across northern parts of Scotland, snow building up. We're talking 20, 30 centimetres perhaps over the highest routes, and with some brisk winds still, we could see some blizzard-like conditions. Also, a few showery bursts of mainly rain across parts of Northern Ireland, perhaps a wintry mix pushing in across parts of Wales, some sleet, some snow over the higher ground, a few spots of rain across some parts of southwest England, but otherwise across much of England really it is going to be a fine end to the day. Clear skies though, allowing temperatures to plummet, so it is going to turn cold, frosty, a harsh frost in quite a few places, just where you've got that breeze coming in from the north and a bit more cloud perhaps towards some western parts. Here temperatures not dropping quite as low, generally staying a few degrees above freezing, but further east, yes, it is going to be cold and frosty tomorrow morning. Watch out, as there is the potential for a front of sorts to bring some rain, sleet and snow across parts of Northern Ireland, Wales, and maybe into southern southeastern parts of England as we go through tomorrow morning. That could cause some problems with some icy stretches here and there. Otherwise, actually a lot of fine weather for many, some decent sunshine, just still plenty more snow showers in areas exposed to that northerly wind. Temperatures, if anything, tomorrow are going to be a few degrees down on today, so feeling even colder.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
This is your chance to become our biggest cash prize winner to date. £85,000 in totally tax-free cash could be making its way from our bank account to yours. It would be like having over £7,000 per month extra to play with each month for a whole year. That could be you, safe in the knowledge that 2026 is on us. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus us to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 11 o'clock on Thursday, the 1st of January. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Cameron Walker and Miriam Cates.
And in some breaking news, around 40 people have died and 100 are injured after an explosion at a ski resort in Switzerland.
But even more people will feel, once again, a sense of hope, a belief that things can and will get better.
Well, that was the Prime Minister's New Year statement. He's promising positive change is on the horizon after a turbulent 2025. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch is optimistic too.
Britain is not destined for decline. We are a great country full of talent, humour and strength. Things can change, but only if we have a plan for change.
Well, overnight, London rings in the new year in style as cities around the globe lit up the night sky with spectacular fireworks to welcome in 2026.
This, we will smash the gangs.
I will do whatever it takes to secure our borders.
In August, I signed the new treaty with France, allowing us for the first time to directly return those who arrive on small boats.
We've got an exclusive interview with the Immigration Minister, which asking, is there any chance of Labour getting a grip on the migrant crisis in 2026?
And a record-breaking number of Brits are expected to take part in Dry January this year. Are you one of the 17 million?
Well, we'd love to know what you think. Send your views and comments to gbnews.com/yoursay. Perhaps you could tell us if you've made a New Year's resolution. Have you been making such promises, Cameron?
Well, sometimes I consider doing Dry January, but I've got an excuse, you see, Miriam, because...
I've heard it already, it's pathetic.
Two of my friends, my really good friends, their birthdays are in January, so I feel like I just can't miss out on the good times.
No Prosecco or something?
It's a bit boring, isn't it? I mean, this morning I could tell you I could absolutely do Dry January. January, but I think by tomorrow I'll be ready to go.
I have failed already because I was here until 1:30 and champagne may have been consumed in the early hours of this morning, so it's too late. That's my excuse.
I see. On this very desk, drinking on the job, Miriam.
That's right. No, it was a little bit risky. But I think the problem with New Year's resolution, I mean, it's all very well to think about things that you want to improve. I think that's a good thing. But without a plan, people always fail. And you can say, I'm going to go to the gym more. But unless you've got somebody standing there checking that you're being accountable to your promises, it's not going to happen.
And it's the same every single year. You go to the gym in January, it's absolutely rammed. And by mid-February, it's tailed off and it's back to normal again. So many people are giving up, Miriam, as you say.
I think it is a good time to take stock, isn't it? But I think what normally happens when people do manage to achieve transformational change in their lives, if there's some sort of event that happens or some motivational factor where people suddenly decide, right, that's it, I'm going to put a plan in place. And it's not necessarily New Year that's the best time for that.
Yeah, and also it's a gradual change. I think if you try and change too much too quickly, that's when it goes wrong and you lose motivation. But yeah, do let us know what
I prefer the idea of taking something up, a new hobby, a new skill. I think that's more creative than giving something up. But I haven't thought of one yet, I'm just saying.
And then you've got Lent as well, and you've got to give something up for that in a couple of months as well.
Twice in a quarter of the year, it's just too much.
Just live a little. Have some fun. It's 2026.
Sound advice from Cameron Walker early on. It's only 11 hours in.
Yeah, definitely. But we'd love to hear what you think. Send us your views and comments. gbnews.com/your say. But first is the news with Sophia Wensler.
Miriam Cameron, thank you and good morning. It's just gone 11 o'clock. These are your headlines. Now, as you've been hearing, 40 people are feared dead with a state of emergency declared after an explosion and a fire at a bar in a Swiss ski resort. The blast happened at La Constellation Bar, close to the resort of Crans, Montana, with around 100 people injured. Authorities say victims include several nationalities, and Swiss hospitals are dealing with a major influx of critically injured patients. France's foreign ministry has confirmed French nationals are among those injured. Police say the incident is not being treated as terrorism, with early reports suggesting pyrotechnics at a concert may have been involved. Now, 41,500 Channel migrants reached Britain in 2025, making it the second busiest year of small boat crossings on record. It comes as the Immigration Minister told GB News he's confident that sweeping changes to immigration policy will allow the UK to make progress in tackling small boat people smuggling in the year ahead. In an exclusive interview, Mike Tapp said the new powers would make it less attractive to come here and easier for authorities to deport illegal arrivals. The Prime Minister has promised that positive change is on the horizon as he delivered his New Year message to the country. Sir Keir Starmer admitted that times have been hard in Britain, but insisted his government is staying the course to turn things around.
Things have been tough in Britain for a while. For many, life is still harder than it should be. You long for a bit more money in your pockets, a meal out, a holiday, the chance to make a special family moment extra special. In 2026, the choices we've made will mean more people will begin to feel positive change in your bills, your communities, and your health service.
Meanwhile, household bills are set to rise today while temperatures across the country plummet. The energy price cap increase comes just as a swathe of cold health alerts have been issued for large areas of the UK. Ofgem says the average household will now pay £1,758 a year for gas and electricity. That's just £3 more than before. In other news, Volodymyr Zelensky has said a peace agreement to end the war with Russia is 90% ready. The Ukrainian president made the comments in a New Year address that largely focused on resistance to Moscow's full-scale invasion. Zelensky said the remaining 10% of the agreement to end nearly 4 years of conflict would determine the fate of peace and the fate of Ukraine and Europe. Meanwhile, in his own New Year speech, Russian President Vladimir Putin told his troops that we believe in you and our victory. Now some breaking news. A police officer who lost his wife and 2 children in a house fire on Boxing Day has paid tribute to his family as 3 of the greatest humans to ever grace our presence. The bodies of New Sherman and their children Eve and Honor were found in the property in Stroud. Their pet dog Hutch also died in the fire. And Anthony Joshua has been discharged from hospital in Nigeria days after a fatal car crash that killed 2 of his close friends. The British heavyweight boxer was deemed fit to recover at home, according to the Ogun and Lagos states. The former world champion has been described as heavy-hearted over the loss of his friends Sina and Latif. Those are the latest GB News headlines. I'll have more for you in half an hour.
Welcome back. The time is 7 minutes past 11. This is Britain's Newsroom, live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Cameron Walker and Miriam Cates.
Well, let's just recap that breaking news from this morning. Swiss police believe that around 40 people have died following an explosion in a bar and 100 people injured, many seriously.
The fire began at around midnight UK time in a bar in Crans-Montana in the Valais region, which is popular with tourists.
Well, Swiss authorities have said that some of the victims are from other countries, but it's not yet known if any Brits are among those casualties.
Now, the UK Foreign Office has commented on the incident. A spokesperson said, "Our thoughts are with all those injured and killed in the terrible tragedy in Crans-Montana, and we pay tribute to the Swiss emergency services who are leading the response."
Well, earlier this morning, the head of Valais Canton Police in Switzerland addressed the press. And here's what they had.
We've counted around 100 injured people, most of them seriously, and unfortunately several dozen individuals are presumed dead. I can't hide it from you. We're shaken by what happened last night in Caen. On behalf of the command of the Valais Cantonal Police, I extend my deepest sympathy to the victims and the families affected by this tragedy. I assure them of our support during these particularly dramatic and painful moments.
Well, earlier we spoke to the Swiss journalist Melissa Müller.
There's a lot of shock, but also I think trust in the Swiss authorities, because they deal with tragedies usually quite well and quite thoroughly. Usually health and safety standards are quite high in Switzerland. There was a witness account in one of the Swiss media which said that there was only one exit, which is, of course, it could be a reason why there is such a high death and injury toll. Whenever there's big fires or big natural catastrophes, usually we see authorities quickly ramming up whatever they have. There's a lot of helicopters. They're very skilled with that due to the infrastructure of the mountains, the natural geography. So usually, yes, I would say people have trust that there is good responses from the emergency systems. In general, I would say the Swiss authorities, they do react very quickly. They do react very well. They have a lot of helicopters. There was 150 emergency staff. There was 40 ambulances, more than 10 helicopters bringing people to hospitals. So I think Switzerland in general is a very well-prepared country. Of course, no one can see a tragedy like this happening. And it's not something that happens usually. So I think any place in the world would be overwhelmed with dozens of dead and 100 injuries. I definitely know that the authorities said there's absolutely no chance that it would be a terror attack. So whether it was still a deliberate fire, that's unclear. The investigation is still ongoing, so I wouldn't like to comment on that. But right now it seems more like an accident situation, which of course could change. I know that there were some tourists that were also part of the, that were victims of the fire. It's not clear which nations they come from yet. It's not clear how many tourists, how many foreign nationals were affected.
Well, we're joined now by the former detective Chief Superintendent Kevin Hurley. Kevin, good morning to you. There's lots of speculation as to how this fire started. Police have ruled out terrorism, but what will the police be doing now in order to establish exactly how this fire and explosion took hold?
Well, they'll be carrying out, once the bodies are all fully recovered and they've started the process of identifying who's who and linking them up with their families, then they will be carrying out a very detailed forensic examination, precisely what happened. Normally with fires, not only will you deploy crime scene investigators, but you will bring in specialist laboratory scientists from their criminal police laboratories who will be experts at analysing any chemicals or accelerants that might be present. I mean, it's very difficult at this early stage to say what will have caused this. I'm surprised they've said as early as that they've ruled out terrorism, because until you know the exact cause of the explosion, you can't rule any particular source of it out. But if we assume that it is a mountain village, which is unlikely to be served by gas mains, probably they rely on liquid petroleum gas for their heating in those large tanks you'll see out the back of buildings, or perhaps containers. And of course, if one of those has been badly managed or leaked, then there's always a chance of an expanding vapor explosion that you get with those kind of things. But it's actually, this is just conjecture on my part. The bottom line is they will be leaving no stone, if you like, unturned to work out what the actual cause of the fire was. And you need to know, what initiated it, what was the initial fuel, what were the sources of oxygen for the fire, and what then caused it to spread. And of course, we're already hearing, again from your reporter in Switzerland, there was only one exit, which of course I'm almost sure will be a fire violation for a bar of that size in Switzerland. But people get reckless and they don't make sure doors are open to ensure their customers are not placed at additional risk. So this will go on for a good while, this investigation.
Well, we are hearing, it's being reported that an eyewitness, a French woman who witnessed the fire start, is telling the French TV channel BFM that the fire broke out when a woman who was being carried on another's shoulders held a sparkler in a champagne bottle too close to the ceiling. So one of the lines of investigation will be to do with the ceiling material, I imagine, and whether or not it was sufficiently fireproof.
Sure, undoubtedly. And of course, in ceilings, you get lots of voids, and it's very easy for a fire, once it starts, to flash right across the open ceiling. And I'm sure there'll be all kinds of dust and fragments and rubbish up there, which will have acted as kindling. But again, this is all conjecture, and I think let's wait and see what happens. And of course, the other point I make is witness accounts can always be confused. So whilst people think perhaps it started with an explosion, it may well be that this eyewitness is correct and it actually started with someone setting the ceiling tiles on fire, which later went on then to hit a source of gas.
Kevin, the police have saying that the victims are multinational from lots of different countries. What's the process of the Swiss police being in contact with, let's say, the British authorities to inform next of kin of what has happened? Of course, there's no confirmation that British nationals are involved, but what would be happening now behind the scenes?
Well, I mean, the first thing that they will want to do is identify who are local residents, local nationals, and who are not. And then there is a system in most countries, certainly within the UK, where they will set up a thing they call Casualty Bureau, where they will call in specialist officers and in some cases volunteers to man the phones and then handle incoming calls from concerned relatives who may think my family is actually at this resort on holiday. We haven't heard from them. So they will then start to collate the details and transfer those across to the Swiss. I mean, we live in a modern, totally connected world now with the internet and mobile phones, so the transference of information should not take long. But the Swiss are a well-organised, very efficient country, as we know, and so their emergency service processes for identifying people in mass casualty events will have been regularly rehearsed and well practiced. Effectively, what is a well-oiled machine will fall into place in Germany, Britain, France, and so on, where these procedures are practiced, sadly, partly from various natural accidents and from terrorist events that have caused mass casualties.
Now, Kevin, you mentioned that we live in a highly connected world now, and something that we have seen in recent years after disasters or well-publicised crimes is kind of hobby detectives coming along to these scenes, filming things for social media, and actually causing enormous problems to authorities trying to investigate. Do you think the Swiss authorities will be trying to prevent that sort of activity?
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to allow anyone access to the actual crime scene because that's what it is. I mean, anyone's money, it will be a crime scene, if only because it will have been perhaps negligence by the owners of those premises to create the situation where such a death rate occurred. And that will, under Swiss law, break into offences of manslaughter of one form or another, culpable homicide. So it's a crime scene. So the police will keep people away from that. But of course, the amateur detectives, the influencers will try and turn up there, try and speak to people who have got something to say to the media, who think they were there. But they're not going to get access to the insides of that building. And the only way you're actually going to find out what the causes of that fire is when you get the technical experts. I mean, as a fully trained, experienced senior investigating officer who's attended many fires, we would have always called in our specialist laboratory scientists who would have worked in conjunction with scientists from, for example, the London Fire Brigade or other fire brigades, because frankly, it's above our pay grade to actually ascertain the technical, the chemical or the electrical reasons why these fires occur.
OK, former Detective Chief Superintendent Kevin Hurley, thank you very much for joining us. And the UK Embassy in Switzerland has released a statement. They say Swiss emergency services are responding to a fire in Crans-Montana with nationals from multiple countries likely affected. We continue to monitor the situation. Whilst we've not been approached for assistance, our staff stand ready to support British nationals abroad 24/7. The number of, if you need to get in contact for British nationals for consular assistance, is 0207 008 5000.
And considering the time of year and all the other things happening, it has been an extraordinarily well-coordinated response from the authorities so far. Of course, many Swiss nationals will still be waking up to this news.
We have, and we will, of course, keep you up to date throughout the rest of the programme this morning. But do stay with us. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 22 minutes past 11. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom with Cameron Walker and Miriam Cates.
And we're joined by the political commentators Andy Williams and Piers Possinger in the studio. Good morning to you both.
Morning. Morning.
Obviously, we've been covering the tragic events that have taken place in a bar in Switzerland. Lots of conflicting reports, Andy, which I suppose isn't particularly helpful for authorities trying to piece together exactly what happened.
No, I mean, if it's true that it was caused by a sparkler in a champagne bottle or something like that, I mean, what a just tragic but a very innocuous way for something like this to have happened. And I suppose we just have to wait and see what the real story is. But very, very sad.
Piers, it does highlight how well in recent decades we have stopped internal fires. I mean, huge amounts is now known about fire safety. Far fewer people smoke than used to. Obviously, don't use candles in the way that people did in the past. It's a sign of how good we are at preventing fires, actually, that tragedies like this are so rare.
Well, I think any kind of firework indoors is a very dangerous thing, particularly if you're not aware of the flammable or inflammable nature of what you're surrounded by. And if you've got a relatively small bar packed with people, it's very hot and heat rises. And if you've got a ceiling that's already quite hot and made of sort of polystyrene-like stuff, it's a big fire risk, and any kind of firework is dangerous in those circumstances. But again, this is pure speculation, and you know, it's. I think, Miriam, you're right. It's a miracle in many ways. There aren't more tragedies like this, and it's a lesson to everyone who runs a bar to be very careful of anything that's flammable indoors.
Swiss authorities have confirmed that some of the victims are from different countries, so not Switzerland's. British people is a possibility, although that has not been confirmed. But of course, with the tragedy abroad, Andy, the Foreign Office are well versed with dealing with incidents such as this, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they'll obviously be awaiting news of whether any British nationals have been involved, and I suppose their next duty will then be to the saddest of them all, which is to inform the families.
And some really sad personal testimony coming out about people who live nearby, saying that they heard screaming and people running. They'll be in mourning for days. We'll never get over this. Now, it's possible that, as we've been saying, the victims will be from a wide range of different countries, but there will probably be also bar staff, people who worked locally, who live locally. This is a local, not just an international tragedy.
I think it's a popular bar and very well known within the town, and it's a small town, and therefore it will have a devastating effect on the local community, I'm sure. It's a huge tragedy, and mercifully very rare kind of tragedy, as we've just said, but it will have repercussions for some time.
Because, Andy, of course, it could well affect the local economy of the Swiss ski resorts if it's going to perhaps put people off, if health and safety standards, as has been reported by some French media, are not quite up to scratch, with only having one exit, for example, in the bar in question.
Maybe, but honestly, I think this is just one of those really awful, tragic, very unfortunate incidents. But these things happen. You know, nobody could have foreseen it. But yeah, and especially on New Year's Eve.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it, Piers? People let their hair down. It's a type of great celebration.
Right.
Of course, we don't know what's happened. We can't speculate. But there will be rules about how many people are allowed in this bar and things like that. But in the times of celebration, especially when alcohol's involved, sometimes those regulations go out the window.
Yeah, and it's New Year's Eve. Everyone feels They want to relax, as you say, let their hair down, and maybe people are a little less careful than they should be. And also, after a few drinks, most people are much less careful.
Yes.
But, you know, again, it's pure speculation. And I think the terrible thing is people always rush to try and apportion blame in these situations. Let's just actually concentrate on praying and hoping those in hospital recover, so the death toll does not rise.
Andy, one thing this does highlight is the extraordinary efforts made by the emergency services. Most people would have been out celebrating last night or sleeping, and yet there are still many, many people on call, ready for the alert, ready to come to people's rescue. We saw dozens of ambulances arrive at the scene in very short space of time. I mean, these people deserve a lot of credit.
They do, and I always think at this time of year, you know, there'll be the hospitals in London and around the UK this morning will have a disproportionately high number of people who have fallen over because they were drunk or got too drunk, and, you know, that's putting more pressure on the emergency services, and they do an amazing job.
Well, we're joined now by the travel journalist Simon Calder down the line. Simon, good morning to you. Can you give us a sense of how popular this area of Switzerland is with skiers and British tourists?
OK, it's very, very popular with skiers, simply because it has some of the best runs in the Alps. Crans-Montana is in the Valais region, about 2 hours from the capital of Switzerland, Bern, and it's a very upmarket resort. That tends to be the case pretty much everywhere in Switzerland, simply because prices are much higher than they are, for example, across the border in Italy. In terms of British skiers, it's not the it's not the most popular resort. However, there will undoubtedly be British people who are at the resort, and as we've been hearing, the Foreign Office will be doing what it can to see if there are British victims of this terrible tragedy. I would suggest that if you do have relatives who are possibly in the area, the Foreign Office does have a helpline that you can call in order to see if there's any news of loved ones there. But at the moment, of course, the travel industry is simply trying to come to terms with an appalling start to the year and just a tragic loss of life at a time when many people are celebrating. And of course, it's very popular to be at a ski resort on New Year's Eve. I've done it myself in Austria, because you're going to enjoy the skiing, and then you've got the very best après-ski in the form of a New Year's Eve celebration.
Now, Simon, some of the tourists caught up in this may be eyewitnesses. They may be wanted by the police to give statements. Is that something that tourists are generally prepared for? What will be the result if, for example, they were supposed to fly home today but can't now because they're needed for the investigation?
Well, absolutely, they will need to obey the requests of the authorities, and certainly in such a tragedy like this, they will be doing everything they can to establish what happened. And of course, they will be wanting to make sure nothing can happen like this again. So very much stay put if you have any information that could possibly be of use, and you can sort out the details later in terms of flights and transfers and so on, and travel insurance might help with that. More broadly, the local authorities have appealed to people to be extremely careful when skiing in the area, because so much of the normal medical facilities, which at this time of year are very accustomed to treating tourists, skiers who've broken a leg or whatever, those are now absolutely devoted to treating the injured. And it would not actually surprise me if we were to hear that they have simply said, OK, no skiing, because we cannot take the risk of more injuries, because we will not be able to treat them. I'm not. That's pure speculation on my part, but it would seem to be in accordance with the desperately sad unravelling revelations of what we are hearing about the event. So if you are there, certainly if you are heading for the ski slopes in anywhere within this area, then do take local advice before you do that, because you may indeed be putting yourself at risk as well as stretching the limited medical facilities.
And Simon, as you alluded to, the Valais Hospital, their intensive care units, which is nearest to the scene, is now full and patients having to be sent elsewhere. But in your experience, when there is a major incident such as this abroad in a tourist hotspot, does it put future tourism off to the area? Will the local economy perhaps be impacted?
That's in my experience. Of course, this will now unfortunately be etched on the memory of the travellers, skiers in particular. There's over 1 million British people go skiing every year, and many of them will be familiar with this resort. I think we are clearly just beginning to process this, but I would imagine that longer term it will be recognised, particularly when the investigators have finished finding out what went wrong. This was just an absolutely tragic accident. There will be great learning from it, and that should make things safer. But no, I think from what I know of the ski fraternity, they will simply go where they think they will have the most rewarding experience.
Simon Calder, travel journalist, thank you so much for joining us. And of course, Cameron, no names released of victims yet, but I expect we can we'll have that at some point today. Yeah, we certainly will. So do stay tuned and we will bring you the latest on that. But first, here is your 60-second news update with Sophia Wenser.
Miriam Cameron, thank you. Your headlines at 11:34. 40 people are feared dead, with a state of emergency declared after an explosion and a fire at a bar in a Swiss ski resort. 41,500 Channel migrants have reached Britain in 2025, making it the second busiest year of small boat crossings on record. And household bills are set to rise today while temperatures across the country plummet. The energy price cap increase comes just as a swathe of cold health alerts have been issued for large areas of the UK. Anthony Joshua has been discharged from hospital in Nigeria days after a fatal car crash that killed 2 of his close friends. To the US now, where Zoran Mamdani has been sworn in as New York City's first Muslim mayor with his hand on a Quran. The self-proclaimed Democrat socialist chose a disused Gilded Age subway station at Old City Hall as a nod to the workers who keep modern New York running. Those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Coming up next, an immigration minister has spoken to GB News about the government's hopes of tackling the small boat crisis this year. Do you think they can do it?
This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to a GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, as we head into 2026, it's going to be turning colder. We're going to see snow showers and frost and ice risks. And this is all to do with this cold front. It's sinking its way southwards, introducing colder air from the Arctic. So as we go through today, there'll be some cloud and patchy rain across the south. That will clear, and then many places generally starting brighter as we go into the afternoon. But the most frequent showers, snow showers across Scotland, accompanied by some strong winds, so some drifting snow, and there is a Met Office snow and ice warning in force. But in between, there will be some glimmers of sunshine, feeling cold, especially when you're exposed to that northerly wind. So as we go through this evening, we hold on to those snow showers, especially across northern parts of Scotland and the east across Aberdeenshire, with the risk of ice as we head into the night. There'll be some showers as well across Northern Ireland and across the Welsh mountains, perhaps one of these falling as snow, but for the vast majority of England and Wales, it's a dry end to the evening. But as we head through the evening and overnight, another system moving its way through. So a mixture of rain, sleet and snow across Northern Ireland into Wales and then eventually into central and southern England. We could see accumulations 1 to 2 centimetres, slushy deposits with the risk of ice to start Friday morning. Still hold on to the snow showers across Scotland, but an icy start, frosty morning to Friday. That cloud and rain and sleet and snow will continue to sink its way southwards, so actually brightening up as we go through much of Friday. Still holding on to the strongest winds across the north with the risk of snow showers, even to lower levels. And for all of us, it's going to be a colder day. Bye-bye.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 21 minutes to 12. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Cameron Walker and Miriam Cates.
Good morning to you. And the Immigration Minister has told GB News he's confident that sweeping changes to immigration policy will allow the UK to make progress in tackling small boat people smuggling in the year ahead.
Well, in an exclusive interview, Mike Tapp MP said that the new powers would make it less attractive to come here and easier for authorities to deport illegal arrivals. Mark White has this exclusive report.
When Sir Keir Starmer came to office, he promised to smash the gangs to end these illegal crossings. 18 months on, by the most obvious measure, the numbers arriving in the UK, he's failed on that key pledge. It has been the second highest year on record. Only poor weather through the whole of November and much of December prevented it surpassing the more than 45,000 who arrived back in 2022. Today is typical of the kind of weather that we've experienced in the Channel all too often lately. It's not exactly blowing a gale, but it's windy enough to churn up the waves and make it impassable for these flimsy migrant dinghies. On the other side of the Channel, there is no slowdown in the numbers arriving in the camps here. For the residents in French towns along the Channel coast, it has been a miserable year. GB News has documented increasing levels of migrant violence and criminality. In the UK, it's not knowing who those arriving here are, what their criminal past might be, that has so many increasingly concerned. A year of highly alarming incidents linked to asylum seekers brought thousands onto the streets, protesting outside migrant accommodation across the country. Despite the growing levels of anger and no sign of any let-up in illegal migrant crossings, the Immigration Minister told us he's confident the government is making progress.
We inherited
open borders. We've seen recently sweeping changes to the immigration system to make it less attractive to come here, easier to deport and remove people, and of course counter-terror powers to take on the smuggling gangs, and I'm confident we'll make progress.
A much publicised returns deal with France has so far seen only a very modest number sent back over the channel. The government says it hopes to expand the programme. And a long-anticipated plan for the French to push migrant boats back onto the beaches has yet to begin, with indications it'll only ever be used in rare cases. The former Director General of Border Force believes Labour has to find a major third country deterrent, like the previous government's Rwanda scheme.
I think for the more difficult countries, we do need a Rwanda-style deterrent, but it has to be a laser-like focus on removals. That's what we need. In my experience, the only way to tackle asylum intake is to say we will detain you when you get here and we will remove you. That's the only message, I'm afraid, that the migrants and the smugglers are going to understand.
Across the year, UK law enforcement managed a number of key arrests and prosecutions of those linked to Channel people smuggling. But despite those successes, it seems to have hardly made a dent on a criminal trade that continues to push ever greater numbers towards the UK. Mark White, GB News.
Well, coming up next, GB News Scotland reporter Tony Maguire is in South Queensbury for us, primed and ready to take a cold plunge.
Yes, it's a 40-year-old tradition and it involves some 7-degree water today, but, you know, never say that we don't give you a show here in GB News. Join you after the break.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Plenty of heavy and thundery rain across parts of southern Europe as we go through into the weekend. There's Storm Francis, which is heading towards Spain and Portugal, bringing heavy and thundery rain here. Also some heavy rain across parts of Italy, Slovenia, Hungary, Croatia, and the risk of some significant hill snow building up in parts as well. Into the weekend, well, there will be some dry weather around, but also further rain at times too. I'll see you later.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
News channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom on GB News, and let's just recap on the breaking news from this morning. Swiss police believe around 40 people have been killed following a bar explosion, and 100 people are injured. Many of those are thought to be seriously wounded.
Well, we understand that the fire began at around midnight UK time, so 1:30 in the morning in Switzerland, at a bar named Le Constellation in Crans-Montana in the Valais region, which is popular with tourists.
Now, Swiss authorities have said some of the victims are from other countries. It is not yet known if any Brits are among the casualties.
The local intensive care unit is reportedly full. Victims have been transferred to nearby hospitals.
Well, during the press conference, the police said they believe a fire was responsible for the explosion rather than a terrorist attack.
And the UK Foreign Office has now commented on the incident. A spokesperson has said, "Our thoughts are with all those injured and killed in this terrible tragedy in the Crans-Montana region, and we pay tribute to the Swiss emergency services who are leading the response."
Well, earlier this morning, the head of Valais Canton Police in Switzerland addressed the press. Here's what they said.
We've counted around 100 injured people, most of them seriously. And unfortunately, several dozen individuals are presumed dead. I can't hide it from you. We're shaken by what happened last night in Caen. On behalf of the command of the Valais Cantonal Police, I extend my deepest sympathy to the victims and the families affected by this tragedy. I assure them of our support during these particularly dramatic and painful moments.
Well, we will, of course, continue to keep you up to date on this story throughout the day on GB News.
We will. The time is 11:48 and it is New Year's Day, and hundreds of brave souls are expected to celebrate the new year with a cold plunge for the annual Looney Duke.
Well, it's not for me, but the tradition dates back to 1987 when a group of friends went for a dip into the Firth of Forth in Scotland to cure their hangovers.
Yeah, I think a few of us might need that this morning. But GB News' Scotland reporter Tony Maguire is there in South Queensferry for us. Tony, are you going to be taking the plunge?
I'm just about to do it in a wee second, but just before we do, as you say, this is a 40-year-old tradition here in the absolutely glorious surroundings of the Forth Bridges. And just in honour, just to explain my get-up today, no shirt and tie, in honour of Scotland making it to the World Cup this year. We are donning the Scotland top, but we're just about to go in. We don't have too long with you, but whoa, God, this is absolutely freezing. 7 degrees. I heard a woman who had a wee thermometer today. My voice is going so high. A little bit out. It's so cold. I can't really tell you how cold it is. My voice is going. Whoo!
Tony, I can hear your voice.
Back in the shore, a little better now. But yeah, this is a long-term tradition. No wonder everyone's laid up at the start of January with a cold. But Happy New Year to all you guys in the studio. Happy New Year's to all our viewers back at home. I really wish someone had advised me a little better not to do this today. But as you can see, there's even lots of onlookers up in the stairs there. And I think that this has been a big event. A lot of Dookers came in this morning, all in fancy dress. They've gone now, it's just us guys, but certainly still stragglers wanting to see New Year in the right way. My voice is still peaking. I don't know where I'll be doing the soprano at next year's carol concert, no problem.
Tony, thank you so
Happy
much.
New Year, everybody.
Cameron, Happy New Year, Tony. Cameron, I'd love to see which part of Tony's contract enabled GB News to make him do that.
Yeah.
I hope it's not in mine, that's all I can say.
No, definitely not. What a trooper Tony is. Well, hopefully it's cured, if he's got a hangover, hopefully it's cured it. But I just love how he was everything to keep that microphone alive, making sure that didn't get wet and sacrificing everything else. God, he looks very cold, didn't he?
And the sharp intake of breath when he came out, you know how freezing cold that is. I know that cold water swimming is increasingly popular, but I have to say it's not for me. I might be from the north, but I have no interest in voluntarily getting cold.
Yeah, I don't think I will either. But let us know if you are going to be taking a cold plunge. gbnews.com/you'll say. I mean, a lot of people do it after a sauna, don't they? They go to a sauna and then plunge into a Norwegian fjord or like an ice bath or something. But I don't think it's for me.
No, well, I will be back later on this evening at 6 o'clock for Jubes & Co. We'll be back tomorrow morning, won't we, for Britain's Newsroom?
I don't think you got me. I think you might have somebody else. Or maybe you do have me.
Well, you're on the schedule, so set your alarm, Cameron.
Amazing. Perfect. That's good to know. Well, thank you so much for watching. This has been Britain's Newsroom. Of course, Tom and Nana are up next. They are going to be keeping you updates on all the latest on that fire in the Swiss Alps. Just to recap, 40 people have been killed and 100 or so are injured.
Well, up next, Good Afternoon Britain with Tom and Nana.
Well done, Miriam. Crikey. She must have had 2 hours sleep. She's back again tonight. God, a lot of people going above and beyond. And Tony Maguire for jumping into having a
that was absolutely
crazy.
Heroic. But yes, as we speak, Swiss authorities are reaching out to the next of kin of those who have sadly died in this terrible alpine fire. This afternoon, we'll be learning more information about exactly who has been caught up in this terrible blaze.
We'll also bring you as much detail as we can as to how that fire started. Some say it was an explosion. It's not believed to be terror, but we'll bring you those updates as they happen.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, Happy New Year. This is your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. It's a cold day today. We have northerly winds bringing Arctic air and also plenty of showers, particularly across parts of Scotland. These readily falling as snow. We're going to see some snow accumulations really building up as we go through the next few days. Also through today, a few spots of showery rain, maybe some sleet and snow across parts of Northern Ireland, Wales, and perhaps feeding into some central and maybe southern parts of England. Elsewhere, actually, a lot of dry, sunny weather to be had, but temperatures a little bit below average for the time of year and feeling even colder where you're exposed to that brisk northerly wind that's pushing through into the evening. And we're going to continue with showers piling in across northern parts of Scotland, snow building up. We're talking 20-30 centimetres perhaps over the highest routes, and with some brisk winds still, we could see some blizzard-like conditions. Also, a few showery bursts of mainly rain across parts of Northern Ireland, perhaps a wintry mix pushing in across parts of Wales, some sleet, some snow over the higher ground, a few spots of rain across some parts of southwest England, but otherwise across much of England really it is going to be a fine end to the day. Clear skies though, allowing temperatures to plummet, so it is going to turn cold from the north and a bit more cloud perhaps towards some western parts. Here temperatures not dropping quite as low, generally staying a few degrees above freezing, but further east, yes, it is going to be cold and frosty tomorrow morning. Watch out as there is the potential for a front of sorts to bring some rain, sleet and snow across parts of Northern Ireland, Wales and maybe into southern southeastern parts of England as we go through tomorrow morning. That could cause some problems with some icy stretches here and there. Otherwise, actually a lot of fine weather for many, some decent sunshine, just still plenty more snow showers in areas exposed to that northerly wind. Temperatures, if anything, tomorrow are going to be a few degrees down on today, so feeling even colder.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
We want to make the new year your best year yet, with a chance to win our greatest cash prize to date. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Treat the family to that bucket list holiday you've always fancied. Get your dream car you've always wanted. Or just relax, safe in the knowledge that the coming year is on us. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around.